welcome to the channel. Today we are going to be breaking down the VLOOKUP function in a very new way. I am going to share with you all the tips and tricks needed to ensure that you all become VLOOKUP experts by the end of this video. If you're new to this channel, please subscribe so you do not miss out on further content. Without further ado, let's jump right into the VLOOKUP function. So here we have two tables side by side. One's called master data set, one's called new data set. Master data set is just our big data set. It's something that we probably exported from a database. And then our new data set is the spreadsheet workbook, if you will, that we are creating. And then we'll be pulling information from the master data set over to the new data set. So just as our quick example, we're going to pull in pay grade using the VLOOKUP function. And then after this example, we're going to deep dive what it is I've just done, and that will solidify the VLOOKUP function so that you all become experts at using this function. So we're going to just start typing VLOOKUP. And then once you see the word VLOOKUP pop up right here, you can hit tab. And it will finish the VLOOKUP syntax for you and put the open parentheses. And so the first part of our syntax is lookup value. So we're going to select 897. That's our lookup value. As you notice, it's in our new data set and our master data set. And then when you get to the second part of the syntax, table array, you're going to select your entire table, okay? The easy way to do this would be, at this point, Control Shift and down arrow. That will select your entire table. Now, once you get here, you want to put static references on everything. So once you get to the point where you've selected your entire master data set, simply press F4. Just press F4, and if you'll notice, it put a $ in front of the column letter and in front of the row number for both. A3 and F421 have $ in front of them. That gives us a static reference. And we'll need that if we're going to drag this formula down, which we are going to do. Now, the column that we are going to return has pay grade level in it. So that column is going to be, since A is our first column, that would be number 1. That has employee ID in it. So column B is number 2. That has pay grade level in it. Well, that's what we want. We want pay grade. So we're going to do number 2. We're going to say number 2. And then for range lookup, we're always going to do false, okay? And again, this is going to make more sense after the deep dive, okay? So then you can come over here, click and drag, and you have all of your answers. Very quick, very easy. So we're going to jump in and we're going to start deep diving what it is that I just did here. This is really for those who want a quick refresher on what to select, how to get the proper output for a VLOOKUP function. But now we're going to really go in and figure out what it is that I just did. So let's discuss some VLOOKUP definitions. And these are definitions for VLOOKUP that are going to help you remember what to do with the syntax. So let's take a look here. We have syntax first. And in our quick example that we just saw, we got to see the syntax for VLOOKUP. And syntax is basically the structure of a function. It's the structure that also provides you with the inputs needed to get an output from that function, okay? And this will make more sense once we deep dive the VLOOKUP syntax, which will be next. And then second, master data set. So what do I mean when I say master data set? What I'm talking about or referring to when I say master data set is our big data. and it's usually data that's exported from a database. It typically houses more information than we need at the time, and there's no calculations performed within a master data set. It's something that we use kind of like a database, and we pull data from it into a new workbook or worksheet that we have created, and we need some of the information out of the master data set, but not all of it. And then thirdly, new data set, which I abbreviate ND, and that's our data set that we've created, okay, and it will house our functions. So our new data set will house our VLOOKUP function, and then our VLOOKUP function will reference the master data set for the lookup value and the column index to return a certain output. So that right there are some key definitions that we will use to master this function. So let's take a look at the VLOOKUP syntax. And I want to point out that the V in VLOOKUP stands for vertical. So it's vertical lookup. And so if we come in and we look at lookup value, what VLOOKUP is doing is it's taking the lookup value that we have in our master data set and our new data set, and it's going to the master data set, and it's going to look vertically down column number 1. It has to be in column 1. VLOOKUP can only go left to right, so your lookup value in the master data set has to be in column 1. And so with it being in the master data set and the new data set, it's going to take the value that you select in the new data set. Like I said, come over, look for it vertically in the master data set in the first column, and then that will dictate our output based on our column index number. So essentially, once it goes down vertically and it finds a match, that's our row. And then we're going to go over a certain number of columns that we specify, and whatever's in that cell will be what we output. Okay, and that should cover lookup value. Next we have table array. And table array is basically our master data set. So this is where we're going to do our search. Okay, where are we going to search for all of our criteria? We're going to search in the master data set. To fill in this part of the syntax, select your master data set. Okay, so just grab it, click and drag. A good way to do it is select the first. You can select the header that's in the first column, and then do Control Shift over arrow, Control Shift down arrow, and it will select all of your master data set for you. That's the easy way to do it. But if you click and drag, as long as you select your entire master data set, you're doing fine. And then once you're done, to get static references like we did in the quick example number 1, just hit F4. If you hit F4, you'll have your dollar symbols in front of your column letter and your row number. Okay, and then you have static references, you'll be able to click and drag. Okay, now column index number. So column index number, that's going to tell us how far to go over in that row that we already designated. How many columns do we want to go over to return what's in that cell? And so assuming our first column in our master data set is housed in column A becomes number 1, column B is number 2, column C is number 3, so on and so forth. And so if the output that we desired was in column B, our column index number portion of the syntax, we would put the number 2 there. Okay? You can't put letters in the column index num. you have to put a number, so it has to correspond with the column, and so that's how you figure that part of the syntax out. And then the fourth part of the syntax is range lookup. And range lookup can be true or false. I say always make this false. Just get in the habit of making it false. If you make it true, you will probably get some very bizarre results from your VLOOKUP function. So just make it false. But the difference is true tells VLOOKUP, hey, I'll take an approximate match for my lookup value when you go over to the master data set and look for it. False tells the VLOOKUP function, I would like an exact match. I will take nothing but an exact match. And that's the safest way to go when looking for your lookup value, is to do an exact match. So just get in the habit of always making that false. Okay, we're going to take a look at another example and use some of this terminology and some of what we've learned about the syntax to go through that example in the hopes that now it really sticks and it's really simple to figure out what it is that you need to do to master this function. So here we're back to our two examples, and this time we're going to pull in age and name using the VLOOKUP function, and we'll use some of the terminology that we already learned. So again, equal sign, VLOOKUP, start typing it. You can hit tab, very, very simple, and we're going to select the lookup value in our new data set, okay, which is 897. We select that, comma, we select the very first column, which notice that it's in B this time. I purposely did that. Our very first column is in B. So we're going to select that. We're going to do Control Shift over arrow, Control Shift down arrow, and then we're going to press F4, comma. We want age, and age is in column F, but we're starting in B this time, so B equals 1. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we want to put 5, comma, and then we double click on false, close parentheses, and we have our age. Okay, let's do the same thing for name. Equals VLOOKUP, start typing it, we can hit tab. Okay, our lookup value is the same. It's in our new data set that we're going to select. We're going to select it out of our new data set, but it's also in the master, 897. Again, we're going to go select our master data set again. Click in the very first one if you want to. You can do Control Shift, hold those down, hit the over arrow, down arrow, that's a shortcut. Hit F4 to apply your static references, comma, and this time we want name, and that is in 1, 2, 3. That's our third one over. Since B is our first column, it is 1. So we're going to put a 3 for column index number, and we're going to select false because that's what I want you guys to always do, please. Hit enter. Okay, so now that we have both of those, we can actually click and highlight them both. Come over to the far right lower corner and just drag down. And because we have our static references on both, everything's going to populate for us. That's the quick and easy way to do VLOOKUP. And when selecting master data set, you can absolutely just click and highlight everything. It'll take a little longer, but if that's easier for you, then by all means you do that, just that, okay? Whatever's easiest for you to get the output that you need, go ahead and do that, okay? So that was our deep dive into VLOOKUP. I hope you all enjoyed it. I think it's great. VLOOKUP's a powerful function. However, what we have coming up next in the next video is a much more powerful function for doing lookups, and that is index match. So you do not want to miss that video. I use index match on a daily basis. It is that powerful. It is one of Excel's what I would consider a life hack to know index match. Okay? So please, again, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. If you learned something today, please hit the thumbs up, and we will see you in the next one.